Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Bethesda here with episode 5 of the Creation Kit tutorial series. Today we're going to be looking at adding caves and such things to our dungeon. Caves act on a completely different system to the dungeons. They're a lot more organic and free-flowing, so they require a kind of different skill set. So that's what we're going to go through today, and make sure you guys are capable of adding caves fully to your dungeon. And then in the next video we're going to look at nav meshing, which is very important. The reason a lot of you, I'm just going to say this now, a lot of you are sending me messages and stuff asking if there's certain tutorials I can do, and believe me, I plan to get through them all eventually, but I have a set idea of what I'm going to do now. I want to get this dungeon series done because it's going to incorporate quests and AI and paths and all this kind of stuff, and all fits very nicely into one sort of series and this dungeon section. So the plan is to fully expand this dungeon bit for a bit, and then I can start looking at other things like adding spells or followers and that kind of thing. That will come in the future, I promise you, and I'll get through it all as quickly as possible to keep you guys informed. But for now, we are going to do caves, nav meshing, and then enemies, which is going to be pretty damn cool. One more thing, I can't reply to private messages on YouTube. It's bugged for me at the moment. I've not been able to reply for a few days, so if you've been getting in touch with me and you're a bit annoyed I've not replied, I apologise. I actually haven't been able to reply. It's just not working for me. So, but I do apologise for that. But keep sending your messages anyway, and when it finally works, I'll try and get back to everyone. Okay, now we're going to push on. Something I should have been noting in the first few videos, but I haven't been. When you load your data files, let's say I need to load a dungeon. We're going to use the dungeon I used in the last video, the Nax's Tomb dungeon that I created. Now to do this, we go File, Data, and as you know, we double click Skyrim.esm and we double click Nax's Tomb.esp. And again, I will leave a link to this tomb if you want to work on this file, if you want to work on this dungeon as opposed to your own. Now, when you activate the mod, you need to make sure you click Set as Active File and make sure the status in this line here is Active File for the original mod that you're going to be editing. If you don't do this, saving over it becomes a bitch and then you'll end up with loads more problems. I should have mentioned that sooner, but make sure 100% the mod you're editing is the active file. Okay? Okay, and then you click OK as usual and it all loads up. So let's go ahead and get Nax's Tomb up. Just in our cell view, we double click that and it should pop up, and here we are. So the plan is to add a cave, and I discussed in the dungeon video that dungeons work on a grid, like a very strict grid, and this means everything's at certain angles and it's all very strict. Caves are a bit different. Caves don't actually work on the same system. Caves can be rotated and angled in whatever direction you'd like. So the first thing we need to do is pick a location for our cave, and this is where we're going to have it. We're going to have it pointing out this direction just before the final room of the dungeon. So we're going to go ahead, click this box here and delete it twice because it tends to be a bit of a bitch. And now we need to find a way to link into our cave section. And for now we're going to make sure, you want to make sure snap to grid and snap to angle in the top left, you want to make sure they're still on for now. We still need them. We'll get rid of them soon enough. And as usual, we're going to go to big halls, and as you can see here, we have something called Nor Hall Big One Way to Cave. So if we drag that in so you can have a look at it, and as you can see, it's got a path there, and then a cave type path coming out this side here, and that'll lead into a cave, no problem, and from there you could build your cave as we will do in a few minutes. However, in my map, these are all ice blocks, and there isn't actually an ice block that leads directly to a cave block. So we have to do something a little different. We have to make that transition that you just saw, we have to make one ourselves. And that does have benefits. It looks a bit more unique and a bit, you can tell it's hand designed. It's kind of cool, but it takes a bit more effort. And for those of you who want to make your own transitions, this bit of tutorial is for you. If you don't, skip ahead to the actual cave building bit. So in order to build our own, first things first, we need to make a three-way Nordic hall. So we need to drag that in there. Drag that in, put that there, just sort of turn this around until it's at the right location. Oops, wrong way. There we go. So now we've got the same sort of, oops, actually didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I need, again, because this is an ice section, we need to make sure we're using the ice model. So instead we drag that in. And then rotate that around until that wall at the back is the wall, like so. So now we've got the same path through there, but we also have a gap coming out of this side. And this is where we're going to put our transition. It's going to be half cave, half Nordic hall. To do that, first things first, we're going to expand this out a little bit, just so we've got a bit of room to work with. Just a simple Nordic hall BG one way. Just a couple of them, and now this block here is where we're going to build the transition. Now, in order to do that, we need to find a cave kit. We've been using the Nordic Hall kit. We're going to now swap to caves, and we're going to go and use the green kit for this one. We could probably use the ice kit, but the green kit's the one most of you will be using, so that's the one we're going to build from. So we're going to go click on the green, and because we're linking to a large hall, we're going to click large hall. And what we're essentially going to do here is build the transition and then move it over the top of the current transition thing. Let's go ahead and pick what we need. We need Cave GL Hall 1 way 01. So that's going to be our hall piece. Let's drop that down. Remember, hold Z and drag to drop down. I'm going to drop that down to the right level pretty much. Yep. Don't worry if it doesn't fit straight away. It's not going to. The cave system is quite different, so it's going to take a bit more effort than it usually does. Apologies for that. Now what we need is a door piece. We need Cave GL. What you want to do is go ahead and just click on green. Don't click on large hall. Just click green. And now we need to find a certain piece, which I will show you when I find it. Cave GL wall door 01. That's what I want. Cave GL, which is green large, wall door 01. And you want to go ahead and drag that in. And as you can see, it's a beautiful sort of cave door type thing. And you can tell, it doesn't really fit perfectly, but that's not something to worry about quite yet. Don't worry about that. Just put that on the end there. And we're going to grab another door. We're going to grab L01 instead, because why not? Drag that in. And as you can see, that's not the right way, so we're going to rotate that around. And now we've got a lovely little doorway. Okay, so we've got our sort of hallway piece, and for now we don't actually need this. We're going to just move this over there. That's out of the way. What we want to do now is build our actual cave. And the reason we're doing these two things together is because we're still using Snap 2 Grid, and rather than turning it on and off, it makes sense just to get everything out of the way now. So in your green cave section, you want to go to large room, and this is pretty much exactly the same as it was when we were building a room before, in the dungeon. The only difference really is that, at this stage anyway, the only difference is that there's no front and side. So you don't have to worry about that. You can just drag the walls in, and they'll all fit regardless. You don't need to make sure you're using the exact right wall. So it makes life a little bit easier. I'm just going to go ahead and drag these in and sort of form ourselves a little cave using the same sort of standard shape and design we always have done. That's a bit too high. Let's drop that down. Beautiful. And now it's simply a case of doing what we always do. Duplicate and drag along. You've done this plenty of times before by now. Should be more than used to it, hopefully. Just make sure none of these are overlapping, otherwise you are going to have seaming issues. But yeah, like I said, you guys know how to do this by now. So we're just going to build a basic cave shape. I promise it'll get a little bit more exciting. Nearly there. So yeah, the next video is going to be about nav meshing, and nav meshing is basically telling followers and AI and such things where they're allowed to walk. It shouldn't take too long, the next one, but it is very, very important to making a successful dungeon, especially if you want enemies in it. And now we take a mid piece, so that was Cave GL Room Mid 01, and we just drag that along. Now see, you can kind of tell have I made an error here? Maybe I haven't. You can see as we rotate round, the seams, there's gaps there. Each side has gaps. That's fine. That's because of how caves are designed. That's going to happen. Don't worry about that yet. That will be dealt with in the future, and it is part and parcel of making a cave. That is to be expected. So I don't need to worry about that quite yet. Again, we're just going to move our cave off to the side a bit, although maybe not quite so low. Okay. So now we're going to start working off the grid. And if you remember in the dungeon, I said the dungeon building process is all built on a grid, and that allows everything to snap to the right place and snap to the right angle. When you're building caves, you don't want to work on the grid, because caves are meant to feel organic and sort of topsy-turvy, twisty-wisty. They're not an exact science. They're a lot more creative. If you're a creative type person, you'll probably quite enjoy the cave process. So we need to get this piece here over the top of this piece here, and now to do this we can't just drag it over because of because of the snap to grid, it just doesn't fit. So we're going to go up to the top here. We're going to click off both snap to angle and snap to grid. We're going to take hold of our transition piece, as we'll call it, and we're just going to overlay it over this. Zoom in a bit, make sure you're working a little bit closer, and we're going to drop that down. As you can see, the goal is pretty much to have parts of the ruins, the Nordic ruins, sort of popping up through the cave, and parts of the cave popping up through the Nordic ruins, so it kind of blends in. You can see it there, you see it a lot in the game. As you see at the top, we've got sort of cave pieces, but there's Nordic ruins coming up there. We've got grass on the wall from the caves, and we've got some Nordic stuff there. It blends in rather well. And from that angle, you can see it looks quite good. And that is quite a nicely done transition. That's all you need to do. Every now and again, you'll have seams and stuff, but again, that is something we'll come to in the future. Well, in a bit in the tutorial, and I promise we will sort that out as well. For now, we need to move our cave to the correct position. So what you want you to do is go ahead, take hold of your cave, and you're going to move it. And what you want to do is, I mean, you can have it lower if you want than the actual entrance. Say you want it to be like a ramp down into the cave, that's fine. But now that we've turned off toggle to angle, we can actually rotate this at any angle we want. Angles that wouldn't be possible if the snap to angle button was ticked. So we're going to have our cave about there. Now, one thing you need to do is, whichever corner piece is closest to this piece here, to this transition, you need to delete. So we're going to delete that there. And that's basically going to be the entrance to our cave. And what we want to do is make sure that gap is sort of overlapping like so. Maybe a bit too low, it seems it, doesn't it? Let's just up that a little bit, about there. As you can see, there's still a gap, but like I keep saying, guys, at the moment, not a big deal in the slightest. So all we've done is we've rotated our cave to an angle we liked, an angle that wouldn't be possible usually, probably. It's not the most obscure angle in the world. I could have made it a bit better, but the point is, you can make it any angle you want. You aren't governed by the same rules that dungeons are. And now is pretty much the final part, but it's also the fun part. Sorry. So all we're doing is we're going to zoom into our cave here. And now we need to start the process of making the cave seem a bit more real, a bit more lived in. Well, not lived in, but natural. You know, most caves start out like this, with seams and bits missing everywhere. Caves are just designed like that because the intention is always to cover them in rocks and pillars and such things. And if we go into our green sort of bit here, we can see we've got pillars, rocks, and dirt mounds and cliffs, and all these are very useful for making the cave seem a bit more realistic. For example, say we want to get rid of this gap here. This is a fairly sizable gap, as we can see, and if we went in game, that would just be a black hole. And that's obviously a bit, that's not what we want. So we're going to click on cliffs, and then we're going to drag in, let's just take the top one for now. We're going to drag that in. And as you can see, if we just rotate this round appropriately, maybe drop it down a bit, it's that simple, and now that gap's gone. And the player also has like a nice little path downwards into the cave. This is what cave making is all about. All these gaps here, we just say, let's take a dirt mound. Let's take dirt mound 1, drag that in. There we go. Gap's gone. It has the added benefit, it covers the gaps, but it makes the cave seem so much more realistic and lived in. I keep saying lived in, but it's not what I mean. But it seems a lot more realistic and natural, and this is really quite a cool part of cave building. It allows you to be creative, allows you to really make it in whatever way you want it. Say we want a huge boulder sitting in the corner. Let's just zoom out a bit. That's obviously a little bit too high. We can just stick a boulder there, and then we'll stick another one next to it. Make this like a rocky corner in the back, something like that. And again, if you walk around the caves in-game, you will see this kind of thing all over the place. And it really is this simple, guys. Just start layering pieces up, doing what you want. It's quite enjoyable. You'll enjoy it. And the one problem with this kind of system is, and it is the only system really, is you will have to try this out a few times in-game for the purposes of making sure all the seams are gone. You know, you're not necessarily going to catch them all via the camera. But either way, it's amazing. And we can also build the walls out a bit. Let's say we want wall straight. Let's put that in. That just gives us a nice wall kind of shape there, and we can just slide that down or slide that up, whatever. to sort of integrate that with the back wall and sort of push the wall out a little bit further than it was, and generally make it all a little bit more exciting. As you can see, there's a gap up there, so we could go just duplicate the wall or something and just move it up again when I can. Oopsie daisy, wrong button. Apparently I didn't duplicate it, that's why. You get what I mean. Okay, that wasn't particularly pretty, but you see where I'm going with this. There's another big gap here, and if you're filling large gaps, you want boulders, you want pillars, and you want cliffs. They're your big three if you're going to cover a gap. Pillars tend to be fairly huge, so let's go ahead and drag this pillar in. And just proving my point beautifully by being massive. Again, if you want to scale something down, if it's a bit too big, hold S, left click, and drag left and right. If you drag right, it'll make it smaller. Now that gap's filled, maybe it doesn't look particularly good, so all we do then is take a cliff, if I can find one. Let's take a cliff island 01, make that a bit smaller, put that in the corner. Oh, that's pretty cool actually, it's like a standalone. That's cool. You get where I'm going with this. It's effectively covered the gap very nicely and made the whole cave feel a little bit more natural. And that's all you're doing, guys, going around, filling all the gaps, filling all the seams with any pieces of rubble and stuff you can find. That is all there is to it, frankly. So go, give it a go, see what you can do. I'm going to finish this off and then we're going to take it into game so I can show you guys just how this works and just what it looks like in game. And I shall see you there. Cheers. Actually, I should mention, now if I go to save, it's now saved over Nax's tomb. Because I set it as the active file, it didn't attempt to overwrite it or anything, it just saved. And that way, as long as you set it as the active file, you'll be fine. I promise you. Okay, now we're done, and I shall see you in-game in a second. Cheers. So here we are in Nax's tomb in the sort of icy region, and straight away we see a bit of an issue. Actually, you see two. We see an issue here, and that this is jutting out. Didn't notice this in the creation kit, but like I've been trying to say, in-game you're going to notice a lot more issues than you do in the creation kit, and that's why you need to be testing out your dungeon and your areas in-game as opposed to just eyeballing it from the creation kit, because there is going to be issues. Everyone at Bethesda would advise us as well. They all kept going back into the maps over and over again, just checking for little seams and gaps and little bugs like this that we don't want there. Now, I'm not sure, I assume by accident I put a normal hallway here instead of an ice hallway, so I'm going to have to delete these and replace these with an ice path, and that'll sort of blend in better with that, and then this will be ice overlaying with cave. But we see another issue here, another sort of seam. Again, a pillar or one of the wall pieces jutting out there, very easy to fix. This is a bit more of an issue. The cave hall, the door pieces kind of thing, this one here, from this angle you can walk straight through it. From this angle it looks like a wall. So to fix this, we could just again add pieces here, sort of stack things up at this side, or we could duplicate this, flip it around and just attach it, and that'll make sort of a full entry way kind of thing. But if we go into the actual cave, if we look around, there's not many issues, and you can see how much more organic it feels than a standard dungeon was. This wall's popping out, and we added this, all these sort of boulders and rock piles over here that we added just to cover up the seams. But the fact is, it makes the dungeon look quite free flowing and natural. Again, there are issues. That needs a bit of a boulder or a cliff in the way. And anything else? There's a couple, but the fact is, you need to be in here. You need to be roaming around in the creation kit in order to find them. You will also want to consider sticking things on the roof, because as you can see, the seams up there. But any cave you go into on the game is going to have pillars come down from the roof, or rocks and vines and stuff like that. So that's not really an issue. On the whole, looks pretty damn good, I think. Yeah, so you can see how much organic it feels. It doesn't look like a square normal room like a dungeon would. And that's why, the seams are there, and that's why it just takes that little bit more effort. I'd also like to put a little cliff there, so that's a smooth ramp. But that's pretty much. I just wanted to show you guys what it would look like, and as you can see, there are definitely problems. And with caves, more so than any other aspect of dungeon building, you need to make sure you are coming in and checking it at regular regular intervals to make sure that all the seams, all the gaps, everything is covered up. So we'd have to go through and stick some stuff on the roof and cover that doorway up from the other side and fix that little seam down there and stuff like that. And here actually that needs something there as well. And you can see here you can take a couple of screenshots, so just make a note on a pen pad. What's a pen pad? That rock's a very strange looking rock. It's very shiny. Just make a couple of notes or something just so you know where everything is, and then you can take it back into the creation kit and just sort of cover everything up. That is all I want to show you. Like I said at the start of the video, I will be covering everything eventually in these creation kit tutorials, followers, magic, all of that, but I do have a very set idea of what I'm going to do for now in terms of dungeon building, etc. Because dungeon building is going to incorporate quests and AI and enemies and loads of stuff, and we're going to get to scripting at some point as well. I'm going to try and show you guys a bit of Papyrus scripting, which is the script language that the creation kit uses. So yeah, thank you for joining me. As always, I've been Best in Slot. Please feel free to subscribe, that'd be lovely, and hopefully that would mean my YouTube partner wouldn't abandon me and get rid of me. And subscriptions really make me feel warm and fuzzy inside, more so than anything else. But I love all the comments and the likes and stuff, so keep them up, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video where we're going to have a look at nav meshing, which is absolutely vital to any dungeon on the planet. Now, before we do nav meshing, I need you to all go and fill your dungeons with clutter, as we showed you in the last video. But if you can't be bothered doing the whole thing, I will be providing a cluttered dungeon file for your use as well, because I'm just that damn nice. See you in the next video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you then. Bye.